Well, check it out, realamericanfreestyle.com. And of course, you can watch online at Fox Nation on the app. But it's happening November 29th. I can't believe that you're back in the fight game, so to speak. Are you enjoying this experience so far, Eric? It's totally different. I know that way back once upon a time, and I think people forget this about you, you were a kickboxer and you did a lot of karate stuff. And I mean, we know the association with Sonny Ono, but I don't think a lot of people know that way back when you actually fought on ESPN, right?
Yeah, I think you could call it that, but it's fun. Number one, I wrestled in high school. I wrestled for a couple of years after high school. Back then it was called the AAU, or Amateur Athletic Union. And I wrestled freestyle and Greco, and then kind of segued into martial arts in my mid-20s. But it's so much fun taking a sport like wrestling and evolving it into a television property. And it has its challenges. I mean, amateur wrestling, freestyle wrestling, if you're a competitor or your family member or friend, you get it, you're passionate about it. But the challenge we have is going outside of that neighborhood, so to speak, and getting those crossover MMA fans and just sports fans to sample us, because usually when they do, we get really positive feedback, and it's fun to build things. That's one of the things that I missed about the wrestling, I guess, about the wrestling business and being in it, is the ability to build something and to take an idea and then expand on that idea and actually have it become a reality kind of right before your eyes. It's a fun process. It's challenging as hell, I'm not going to lie. But it's also really, really rewarding.
We got to take a minute and talk about something that I saw just yesterday. It kind of went viral, I guess is the phrase people would use. I'm talking about Ronda Rousey's appearance on the comedian Brett Kreischer's podcast. Somehow I think everybody listening to this knows that, I said Bert or Brett, it's Bert Kreischer. Bert mentioned that he had texted Joe Rogan asking before their interview, hey, how could I beat Ronda Rousey? And Ronda responded saying something like, he wouldn't know. He's not an expert. He's a fan with an audience. He never fought. And of course, Bert says, well, he did Taekwondo. And she corrected saying, Taekwondo is not fighting. And then of course, Bert asked, hey, how do you feel about Joe? And Ronda just doubled down and said he never fought. And of course, that led you to make a tweet, which just tickled me to no end. And do you want to remind everybody what your tweet said here, Eric?
I think I said, neither is judo. Ask Holly Holm. I just felt like stirring it up just a little bit.
Of course, we know Holly Holm made an appearance at the first Real American Freestyle, but most MMA fans would remember that once upon a time, Ronda Rousey felt like an unstoppable monster. I mean, famously, Dana White even said, there will never be women compete in the UFC. But she became such an attraction, and there was so much interest that they brought her over. And man, she helped take the UFC to new heights. There's no doubt. Everybody knew what was coming. Round one, armbar, submission, rinse, lather, repeat. And then she ran into a buzzsaw named Holly Holm, and night, that was all she wrote. And she talked a lot about that in Bert's podcast. But I love that when she's trying to take Joe Rogan to task, you're quick to remind her, technically, judo is not all that different in that it's not really fighting. I thought that was an excellent point, Eric. Are you trying to create a little controversy, create a little cash in your old school ways, or what do you think?
No, I mean, I just have fun with it. Look, and I respect Ronda Rousey. I mean, she's an amazing athlete. She's accomplished great things. And her time in UFC is a perfect example. So it's not that I don't respect Ronda, but it was I guess maybe I was a little oversensitive to the statement, because when you look at MMA, just like I talked about how wrestling is such a fundamental part of mixed martial arts. And I'm certainly not a mixed martial arts expert, and I'm not trying to pretend I am one. But if you look at the skill sets that take people to the top in MMA, generally speaking, across the board, wrestling is a big component of that. But, you've got judo. You can take out wrestling, insert judo. jiu-jitsu is a variation, obviously, of wrestling. But, you look at sports like, or martial arts, for example, like Taekwondo, as the Olympic sport, Taekwondo, that's more like kind of full contact tag is what that really is. It's really not a fighting skill the way it's presented in the Olympics, for example. But if you take someone like Joe Rogan, who, he has a traditional Taekwondo background. And for people that don't know, Taekwondo is the Korean style of karate that basically involves probably 75% kicking techniques, 25% hand techniques. And those 25% hand techniques are not generally that effective anyway, because it's not a central part of the style inherently. Japanese style of karate is the opposite of that. It's a lot of strong punching technique and skill, very limited kicking skills. So if you take any martial art like Taekwondo and suggest, well, it's not really a fighter skill, depends on the context. But again, you take somebody like Joe Rogan, who, he does have a Taekwondo background. I don't know Joe. I've never talked to Joe. I've never watched him work out. Well, I've seen some of his videos, so I guess I could say I have watched him work out to a degree. But the style of Taekwondo that I'm sure Joe Rogan practices is not at all like the Olympic Taekwondo that people are familiar with. So I just think the statement was a little bit of a shot. And you could say the same thing about judo. Judo is a very effective self-defense skill because you're trained to take people down and use their weight against them and all that good stuff. And I have a lot of respect for people that are great at judo. But you could also say judo is not really a fighting skill. So it was more of a way just to stir up some shit and have some fun. And I wanted to help get some attention on Holly Holm because she's part of Real American Freestyle.
Well, I love seeing you stir it up online. That was a lot of fun. And I got to tell you, I don't think a lot of people made a lot of money on that Holly Holm Ronda Rousey fight back in the day. I mean, Holly Holm, don't get me wrong, was an accomplished athlete, but the hype around Ronda was out of this world. I know nobody wants to give her credit for that now, but with the benefit of hindsight, man, she was one of the biggest stars in sports at the time.
SaveWithConrad.com. My name's Daryl, came from Massachusetts, and I moved to Wisconsin. And there's a lot of people that might be asking, why go with Conrad? Why go with Supreme Lending? And let me tell you something, brother. I think about the credentials, the tag team partner that I'd be working with. First of all, we got the podfather himself, Conrad. How can you go wrong with that? And then also go on to SaveWithEric.com, which, who else could have kicked Vince's ass for 83 consecutive weeks? You can't beat that duo right there. But they did bring a secret weapon, and I didn't realize this because this was not advertised. I worked closely with Larry the Axe Thompson. And let me tell you, with all the stress with moving across the country with a large family that I have, it was reassuring to know that I had the enforcer at my back, handling questions from the other side of sellers, the other side with trying to find the right prices. He took care of all that. All I had to do was keep my eye on the prize and make it there to Wisconsin. They were absolutely fantastic. They checked in on me, especially Francis, very patient with me. I don't go through this process all the time, so I trusted the experts. I was able to call them. They called me if they had questions, and it felt like it was a personal arrangement. There was even a point in which, from the seller side, they wanted something else that wasn't part of the norm. Francis straight up told me, hey, we're loyal to you. We'll do whatever you want to do, and we'll make sure that you guys are taken care of. They came through. I made it to the dream. I'm the champion of my own destiny here. They were able to help pave the way for me and my family. I couldn't be more happy with the results. I went from having less than an acre to now 20 acres worth of land. They made that dream a reality. I'm Daryl, and I'm living in Friendship, Wisconsin, in my dream home, thanks to SaveWithConrad.com.
NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender. SaveWithConrad.com.